Assalamu alaikum and a very good afternoon, dear students. So here I'm going to start with the portion of your 11th standard, the English subject. Basically, I'm going to start with. So the very first chapter or the topic that we are going to deal with will be the first, that is 1.2 on the summit. We reach the top. But before getting started directly into the main chapter, let us discuss something about your portion or the syllabus. Let us discuss about your syllabus basically. So, as we all know, due to the current scenario, your chapter or your the syllabus have been reduced, right? So, we will see that also and a bit about the how your textbook is or how it's going to be. So we will discuss a bit about that and then we will start with the chapter. Okay, so now here, as you can see, the content is given in front of you. So basically there are section based pattern. Okay, as you must have dealt in a unit pattern till 10th standard, right? There were units, 4 units I guess, and in each unit there were the chapters and there were one or two poetries. But now it's not like that anymore when you are coming to the 11th standard. Now here it's completely section based and it's sections basically. In the first section there will be prose, all about the passages. That's what you will have to deal. Okay, and there are 6 chapters. But as we know about the syllabus have been reduced, so the very first one, that is being neighborly, 1.1, okay, that have been reduced. Okay, so we don't have to study that, and apart from that one, the all the other 5 we will be doing. Okay, then coming towards the section 2, there is poetry. The whole section is based on the poetries only. Okay, and from the second section 2.6, that is the planners. Okay, that is removed from your syllabus, that have been reduced. Is it clear? And then moving towards the third section, that is based on the writing skills. As you know, previously till 10th standard, as you must have been doing, so the writing skills part were not included in the textbook, right? We had to do that separately, correct? But now even the writing skills, what exactly you have to do, it's included in your textbook itself, so that you don't have to worry that what you have to prepare and what you don't have to prepare. You don't need to get bothered about that anymore. So it's very clear for you now, and it's quite easy also. So there are 6 topics in that. The first is expansion of idea, with which you must have been very much familiar, right? Because till 10th standard expansions of ideas are already there, but still we will be doing later. Okay, then blog writing. This is something new because I think you must have not done till 10th standard. And then there is emails. Okay, interview, film review. This is a very new topic for you all, the film review, and from in our syllabus basically. Now section 4, this is completely based on genre drama. Okay, so in that, the first one will be history of English drama. What exactly the history of English drama, that's what we will discuss. And then there are 3 different novels. Okay, the rising of the moon, extracts of the drama, that is A Midsummer Night's Dream, and Enemy of the People. And these are the topics we will be preparing. Okay, so now moving further, we are going to start with 1.2 onto the summit. We reach the top. So what exactly the summit? Summit is basically the top of the mountain or the hill. Okay, that's what the summit is all about. Okay, so here is the story of 2 people, but especially the writer who has written, he's sharing his own personal experience, that how was the experience of reaching on the top or on the summit. So that's what he's discussing in this chapter, that how they reached over there, was that difficult or easy, or what exactly the whole scenario, the experience. And that's what the whole thing he is discussing and sharing with us through this chapter. Okay, now So before getting directly into the chapter, let us see some of the icebreakers. There are some activities that we will do before getting started with the chapter. So there are three activities, or the three icebreakers have been given. Okay, so let's start with the first one. The question is, first one, discuss with your partner and complete the web of different activities related to climbing. So what we have to do basically is that we have to discuss with our partner to do is we have to write the different activities which is related to what, related to climbing, as two of the answers are already given. One is rappelling and the another one is rock climbing. Okay, so we as you can see at the right hand side, the answer is already written. So the hiking, mountaineering, trekking, bouldering and ice climbing, these are also the part of the climbing. Is that clear? Now moving towards another activity. See, what you have to do is there are certain prerequisites for mountaineering. With reference to the following points, develop a short dialogue between you and your friend about mountaineering. So, what exactly the mountaineering is all about? What are the things? Prerequisites means what? Like, if we are going on picnic, for example, so we have to prepare for it, right? What we need to know about the place and how we need to get prepared for visiting that place. So the things what we do previously before actually visiting the place, that's what the things or the activities, the things all together, that is called what, prerequisites. And that's what he is asking here, the prerequisites of mountaineering. So what are the prerequisites? It's given here: time, distance, equipment, training, clothes, mental and physical fitness. Obviously, if we are talking about mountaineering, we need to be very clear about time. It's like, we need to set the time that, like if I haven't set any time for climbing the mountain and I'm just walking and walking and walking, if I haven't set any goal, so I might delay my plan, right? I might reach later than the time what I should have been reached already. But as I haven't planned, so this particular distance, then the distance, obviously if we are going for the mountaineering, we need to know about the distance. Is it the 1,000 kilometer, 2,000 kilometer, or just 50 kilometers, or the 100 kilometers? We actually need to know that how much the distance is. Or else, if we have thought, for example, if I have thought that the mountain, the hill, or wherever I am going to do the mountaineering, so if I have thought that it's 50 kilometer, okay, but the distance is much more than that, so what will happen? I might get disappointed, because I was mentally not prepared for more than 50 kilometers, right? So that can become a problem for me, and I might get discouraged with that. So I need to be very much clear about what exactly the distance is. And according to the distance, I need to set my time, that yes, I will require this much particular time to reach the summit. Then equipments, obviously, if it's a normal place or a hill, then it's fine. But if we are going to cover the the huge distance, so obviously we have to keep the equipments with us, so that it can become easier for us to climb. And then training, if I am planning to go on the summit of Mount Everest, so is that everyone's cup of tea, or is that so easy that all of a sudden I'll just decide, yeah, one evening, that yeah, I want to go to the Mount Everest, the summit of the Mount Everest, so tomorrow morning I'll be leaving? Is it so easy to just leave randomly like this? Obviously not. I have to pre-plan for that. And apart from the pre-plan, that yes, I can, after, when I'll be done with the training, then only I can go for the climbing for the summit of Mount Everest. And that's what the very important part. Without training, it's not possible to reach the summit of Mount Everest. And then there are certain clothes that we can there are certain clothes which we can wear that particular only. Like it's not like the daily wears that like usually what we wear in a regular use. So can we wear those clothes while climbing the mountains also? Obviously not. We usually wear the comfortable clothes which we are like if we are at home, so we wear different kinds of clothes. If we go to the party, we wear different clothes. If we are going to the picnic, we wear different kinds of clothes, right? If we are in a particular function or like a wedding or anything, then we wear different kinds of clothes. So like that only, if we are doing the mountaineering, so for that particular purpose also there is a certain clothing pattern, and that's what we have to follow. We cannot just go randomly like any of the traditional clothes or something like that. It's not, that will not go with the proper mountaineering. Understood? So that's what we have to keep in our mind. And apart from the clothes, what we have to keep in our mind, mental and physical fitness. Obviously, if a person physically not fit, like if a person is too weak, so is it possible for person to complete the expedition? Obviously not. Or if the person is mentally not strong, like for, as I gave you the example of 50 kilometers and 100 kilometers, so if the person has mentally prepared themselves, like I have to climb 50 kilometers of distance, but now as just all of a sudden he realized that it's not actually the 50 kilometer, but it's, it might affect his health also. So that can be a big problem. So these are the things that we have to uh, keep in our mind before going for the mountaineering. Now, discuss with your partner the various hazards and risks that a mountaineer tracker has to face in an expedition. So basically, what is the question? Like, what can be the what can be the risk of while doing the mountaineering or the trekking? What can be the hazards or the risk that can occur in front of us while mountaineering? That's what we will have to discuss here. So mountaineering is considered one of the most exciting yet dangerous sports in the world. Obviously mountaineering is like it's a very exciting activity, we can say, right? But at the same time it's a dangerous one also. If we slip, we will fall down, right? And there is no chance of of our safety or like something like that. Then the dangers involved in mountaineering are rock fall, avalanches, inclement weather, equipment failure, falls due to inattention, fatigue or inadequate training, summit fever, and altitude sickness. Obviously, there are many issues. There are many, dangerous. There are many dangers which can come across our way. So that can be our equipments might get failed while climbing. There can be the weather issues. There can be like we can even fall or if we do not pay attention while climbing. There can be the inadequacy of training also, and there will be some people who might have the things which can become the hazards or the risk while climbing. Now, starting with the chapter. So, Tenzing Norgay, 29 May 1914, 9th May 1986. So, basically, the chapter is written by Tenzing Norgay. Basically, the one who about whom the whole chapter is. So he himself has written this chapter. Okay, and with him there is one another person also. They both of them are trekking together. Okay, giving company to each other, and they both are the partners also of each other while climbing the Mount Everest. So the whole experience between them we will discuss in detail. So what he was basically born in the year of 1914 and was expired in the year of 1986. Now he was known by the birth as the Namgyal Wangdi and often referred to as Sherpa Tenzing. So basically by birth what was his name? Namgyal Wangdi, and but he have been referred as Sherpa Tenzing. Okay, and he was a Nepali Indian Sherpa mountaineer. He was particularly a Sherpa mountaineer. Okay. He was one of the first two individuals known to reach the summit of Mount Everest. So, he was one of the first, like, the first person who, for the individuals, two individuals, like, as he and his friend went there together, right? So, they were the first two individuals known to reach the summit of Mount Everest, which he accomplished with Edmund Hillary on 29th May 1953. So basically, when he completed that expedition with Edmund Hillary on Everest they reached. Now here, there are some of the achievements of him have been shown. Okay, and the what were the honor basically, and in which year he received the medal, and by whom he have been honored, and for what which purpose he have been honored. All the different things have been given here, all the details. So the very first award, the honor was the Tiger Medal, that he received in the year of 1938, and that was given by the Himalaya Club. Okay, and that was for the three Everest expeditions. Okay, and then apart from that, the second one is Star of Nepal. That was the medal which he received in the year of 1953, and that was given by King Tribhuvan, and that was for all his accomplishments, whatever he has achieved till that time. And then the third one was Padma Bhushan, and that was received in the year of 1959, and that was obviously given by the government of India, and that was also for all his accomplishments, whatever he has achieved. Then Tenzing describes the climb to the top and all events occurred during the historic climb. The article also describes what brought him to climbing mountains. Now, Tenzing, he is basically describing about the climbing the top, okay, and the the while climbing, what was exactly the experience, this historic occurrence, that's what he is explaining over here. Now, onto the summit, we reached the top. So, when we left Camp 9 on Friday morning, I was determined to get to the top on this day. That morning, I remember thinking I was to get to the top even if I die. I was not afraid to die that day. We when like basically he's talking about the Camp 9. So when he left the Camp 9, it was Friday morning. Okay, and what he's saying here, that I was determined, means I had set the goal that yes, I anyhow this day I had to reach the top. And that's what he's saying. That morning I remember thinking I was to get to the top even if I die. So what he was saying, I doesn't even care if I die or what. But what was his goal? What he said as his goal, that I have to reach the top anyhow, even if I die. I was not afraid to die that day. We set out early, and all the way from Camp 9 to the peak we altered. So what he's saying, even that day I wasn't even afraid of getting dead. I was just very much enthusiastic that yes, I have to reach the peak and I have to reach the summit of Mount Everest. So while going towards the peak, while moving towards the peak from Camp 9 to the top, to the summit, we altered. Altered means, like, changed the places basically. Sometime, the Edmund Hillary was ahead, or sometimes Tenzing Sherpa was ahead. So like that they kept moving. I would take the lead, and then Hillary. The man who follows when climbing has a difficult job both in climbing up and climbing down. He is the anchor. The man going in the lead cuts the steps and breaks the way. So basically, what he's saying, that sometimes I was leading, sometimes Hilary was leading, and then what he's saying, the man who follows when climbing has a difficult job. So means the person who follows, he obviously have to face the difficult job, and that's what he's saying here. Now what he's saying, he is the anchor. the man going in the lead cuts the steps and breaks the way. Like, basically, the person who is leading, if there is any hurdle, if there is any barrier coming in their way, so they have to remove that, they have to cut that, and then they have to lead. So, obviously, that becomes a bit difficult. In my pocket, I had 4 flags. When we were still at Camp 4, Colonel Hunt gave me 3 flags, those of Britain, the United Nations, and Nepal. So, what he's saying, when we left from the Camp 9, or like when we were leaving towards or moving towards the summit of Mount Everest, I had 4 flags in my pocket. The 3 were given by the Colonel Hunt. So, who is Colonel Hunt? Basically, the expedition leader. Okay, means the person who was leading them or guiding them. So, Colonel Hunt gave him 3 flags, but what he said, I had 4 flags. So, the 3 flags that Colonel Hunt gave him was of Britain, of the United States, and of Nepal also. And what he is saying, he charged me with the duty of planting them on the top of the world. So, what he was saying, that what he said, that Colonel Hunt gave me the charge or the duty of, putting the flags on the top of the world, the place which is the top place of the world. I have been assigned with the duty to plant the flags on the top of the world. These 3 flags are in your care, he said. When you and Hillary reach the top, put them at the peak. I am sure that you and Hillary are going to do it. So what he said, the Colonel Hunt to Tenzing Sherpa, what he said, these 3 flags are in your care now. And when you and Edmund Hillary will be reaching the top, so it's your reach on top. I told Colonel Hunt that I was carrying the Indian flag with me and I would like to be on the top with the other flags. I had to ask Colonel Hunt's permission in his capacity as leader of the expedition. So, as I told you that he was the leader of their expedition. So, what he said, Tenzing Sherpa is saying. So, basically, I told Colonel Hunt that I have the Indian flag also in my pocket. So, I would like to reach on top with all these 4 flags. It's not just 3 flags about that he's talking. He's talking about all the 4 flags. Means the other 3 flags are of Britain, United Nations, and Nepal, and the fourth one is of India. So what he's saying, I would love to reach on top with all these 4 flags, and but he also had to ask for the permission from the Colonel Hunt. So he asked for the permission as he was the expedition leader. So, Indian flag. Colonel Hunt said, by all means, I am glad to know that you brought an Indian flag. So, he wasn't disappointed or he wasn't angry on him, but instead he was happy. And what he said, I am glad, or I feel good to hear this. Like, you brought the Indian flag also. After 1 hour of steady going, we cut across from the south face and started up the west side, where we had to pass up a steep line of rocks. This was slow and difficult. Once we had cleared these, there was nothing bearing our way to top but a snow covered incline, sloping less and less as it neared the top. So now what he's saying, after that we continue steadily. We were going towards for one continuous hour we over there, when they were passing, they had to pass up a steep line, basically a sloping line. So this was slow and difficult, which was making them to walk slowly. Obviously, if it's a slope, so obviously we cannot run, or we cannot rush, right? We have to walk slowly because we have to keep our body in control, so that we don't fall, or our body should be in our control. So that's what they had to face, a kind of difficulty. This was slow and difficult. Once we had cleared these, there was nothing bearing our way. Then after that, when they cleared this steep line rocks, after that there was nothing which was stopping them from reaching towards their goal. Okay, then it became a bit easy. There was only snow covered incline, sloping less and less as they were moving ahead. So it was getting less and less difficult, it was less sloping basically. These last 60 or 70 feet up to the up feet up the top were not very dangerous, but we kept up the same steady pace and we reached the small flattened summit almost together. Now, what he's saying, these last 60 or 70 feet were not that difficult or dangerous, but we kept the same speed. We were not moving too fast or like too slow. We kept the same speed, and we reached the small and flattened. Okay, flattened means the even or the equal space. That's what the even space. Flattened summit almost together. And what he's saying, that we reached the small and the flattened summit, as we discussed in the beginning, only the highest point of the hill or any of the 20 feet apart. We were tied together with a rope. Now, what he's saying, during the last 50 feet from the peak, from the summit, I and Hilary were how much feet apart they were? They were almost 20 feet apart. And they were tied through the rope. Most of the time, the rope was loose, but when we went over dangerous ground, we drew it taut. So, what he's saying, most of the times it was feeling like, the rope was a bit loose, but as they were coming towards the dangerous grounds or something, or the place which is risky, so they made it sure that the rope should be tight enough. This rope was a symbol, it tied us together. One could not move without the other. We were not two individuals but a team. So what he is saying here, that rope played a role of symbol between us, and it kept us tied. And because if we are going to be tied with someone, so if one is not moving, the another one also cannot move, and if one is moving, the another one also have to move at the same time, right? So that's what it was all about. So, and what he's saying, we were not the individuals, we felt like a team. And I have been asked many times who was first when we were within reach of the summit. I did not think of who was going to be first. I am sure that Hilary was not thinking that. Climbing takes all your attention. You have many more important worries. Now, what he is saying, that I have been asked this question many times, that who reached first. As we know that Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Sherpa, both of them are going together. They both are moving towards the summit together. So there were many people who kept asking him the question that who reached the summit first. So what he is saying, that I don't even remember that who reached first, or I don't even want to think about that. And even before reaching also, we were not bothered about who is going to reach first. We were just worried about that we should reach there. It's not about who should reach first or who should reach second or something like that. We never thought like that. And I'm sure Hilary also was not thinking that way, because climbing is a task in which you have to pay your whole attention while on climbing only. You cannot get to think anything else apart from the climbing. So climbing takes all your attention. So, and we had many other things to worry about, so we were not at all worried about or thinking about who is gonna reach first. What does it matter whether I reached the top first or Hilary? Our main thought was that both of us reached the top. We had to. One couldn't do it alone. So what he's saying, that doesn't even matter to us, that who reached the top first. Not even to me and not to the Hilary. But what we were thinking at that time, that we should reach the top. And if one doesn't reach, then other one also cannot reach the top, because they were tied together and they were climbing together. If there had been a difference of 1000 feet between us, the one could make the claim that he was first. But even then, only one man behind him could confirm the distance between the two of them. So now what he's saying, basically, like, if there would have been the distance of 1000 kilometer or something like that, the 1000 meters, then one could have said that, like, yeah, who reached first. But we were very close about each other, so there was no probabilities of saying I reached first or he reached first. So when we reached Kathmandu, we discovered that a controversy had arisen. We talked it over, Hilary, Colonel Hunt, and I. We agreed that all the talk was childish. So basically, what was the controversy about? Like, like who reached first or something like that. So basically what they did, they set together Colonel Hunt, Edmund Hillary, and even the Tenzing Sherpa. Okay, and they sat together and they discussed, and what they agreed to, that whatever the talks are going on, that was all childish. So we made a pact, and each of us signed it in the office of the Prime Minister of Nepal. Each one signed his own statement. I have a copy of Hilary's statements which I carry in my pocket. So basically, what they did, they made a pact. Pact means basically a formal agreement. Okay, an agreement was based on which way they did while sitting in the Nepal's prime minister's office, and this all three of them signed that pact, okay, that agreement. And what he's saying, the copy which was of Hilary's, I that copy is with me, and I am carrying that copy of Hillary in my pocket. It reads Kathmandu, June 22, 1953. So basically, what was written in that agreement, that's what it is about. It's given here. So what was the day? On Monday 29th. Okay, sorry, it reads Kathmandu, June 22. So it was about June 22 and in the year of 1953. So what they had written on Monday 29th, that it was 29th May. So Tenzing Sherpa and I left, as this is the copy of Hillary. So that's why it's there is a personal pronoun for the Edmund Hillary. So Tenzing Sherpa and I left for high camp on Mount Everest for our attempt on the summit. So as we climbed upwards to the south summit, first one and then the other would take a turn at leading. We crossed over the south summit and moved along the summit ridge. Ridge is basically a very long and narrow piece which is like raised. Okay, so what he's saying, sometimes I was leading, sometimes he was leading, and in that way we crossed over the ridge also, and we reached the summit or the ridge also. We reached the summit almost together. We embraced each other, overjoyed at our success. Then I took photograph of Tenzing holding aloft the flags of Great Britain, Nepal, the United Nations, and India. So what he is saying, that we almost reached together on the top, on the summit, and as we reached, we embraced, means we hugged each other in the happiness. Obviously, if someone reaches to the top of the Mount Everest, that's not a very a tiny thing. Obviously, that's a big deal. So they were very happy, they were very excited about the task that they had accomplished. So what he's saying, that we were overjoyed basically, and I took the photograph of Tenzing Sherpa, and while holding the flags of India, Britain, Nepal, and of United Nations also. And then thus we will not, there is another paper like this in English signed by me. So what he's saying, there is another paper also like this only in the English which is signed by me. Thus we will not take part in any controversy. And what was written in that we are not going to take part in any kind of controversy. When we reached the top, we did as well as our bulky equipment would let us. I remember saying to him, we have done it. But we couldn't hear. We had our oxygen mask on. Obviously, if we these days, as people are wearing mask, so it's not that easy to speak to everyone while wearing the mask on, right? So it becomes a bit difficult to talk. Even for speaking also, it's a bit difficult, and even while hearing also, it won't be clearly audible, right? So just imagine about the oxygen mask. So they put the oxygen mask on, obviously, because they were climbing the peak of the Mount Everest. So because of the oxygen mask on, they couldn't hear each other, but they understood that what they were saying, we made it and we reached the top. So, the first thought, basically, what was the first thought when they reached the top? My first thought on reaching the top was a sense of gratitude to God that after having failed 6 times, He had blessed me with fulfillment of this desire I had held so long. So, what he's saying, the very first thought that came in my mind was that yes, I reached the top. And that was the sense of gratitude I had. And uh, I got failed for 6 times. That's what he's saying. After having six failed attempts, I finally reached, and the God blessed me with the fulfillment of my desire, and I reached the top. I I placed on the summit the offerings to God that I had carried with me. This is in accord with my religion. Both my wife and I are Buddhist. I could not kneel because of my clothes and equipments, but I offered a silent prayer in my heart. So basically, what he said, you know, I like placed some of the offerings, like I had some of the offerings to present in front of the God, and that which I have been carrying with me. So this is as per the accord with my religion. That's what he was saying. So what he said, me and my wife both are Buddhist. Okay, so but at the time I wanted to kneel down, but I couldn't do it because of the the equipments or the heavy clothing whatever they kept on. So due to that he couldn't kneel down, but I offered a silent prayer in my heart. But what he's saying, I prayed silently in my heart. The offerings were biscuits, candy, and a little blue pencil. My youngest daughter, Nima, had given me the pencil before I left home. She asked me to put it on the top of the mountain as her offering. So what he is saying, what he kept as an offering, he put some of the biscuits he had some candies and the blue pencil, and that blue pencil was given by his youngest daughter Nima. Okay, and what she said to him, what she asked him to do, that to put that pencil as an offering, okay, when he reaches on the top. So as the offering from her side, she gave him to she gave it to him to put it on the top. It was an ordinary blue pencil, not even a long one, but it was one of her prized possessions. So what he's saying, that it was not a very great pencil or something very great about that. It was just an ordinary pencil, a blue color, and it was not also too long. But what was special about that, it was her own possession, her prized possessions. Obviously, we know kids, right? Kids are like, whatever the things are there, either it's a small thing or the big thing, does want to touch their toys also, right? They only allow those toys to be touched by the people whom they love or they are very much attached with, right? So they doesn't allow everyone to touch their toys or whatever their stuff is. So it was her prized possession basically, and that's what she gave him to put on the top. As I put it down, I pointed it out to Hilary. He gave me a big smile, showing that he understood. So basically, what happened, when I put that pencil on the top, I pointed towards the Hilary. Basically, he did not listen or he did not hear what I said, but he understood. When I pointed the pencil towards him, he understood and he gave a big smile to me. Then I got out the flags which I had on piece of string about 4 feet long. I fastened one end to my ice eggs, and Hilary took pictures as I held it up. So basically, what he's saying, I took the flags out, and as I had the piece of string with me, which was 4 feet long, so I fastened them, okay, and with the ice eggs. And what he's saying, Hilary took pictures as I held it up. So I was holding it up, and as I was holding it up, Hilary was taking my pictures while holding the flags. As I had to bring my ice eggs down with me, I buried one end of the string in the ice on the top and the other in snow on the slope down below. When we left, they were lying flat against the summit. So now what he's saying, as I had to, you know, bring my ice axe. So I had to put it down, and I buried one end of the string which was there for the flag. So I buried one end of the string, and the other is in the snow on the slope down below. And they were lying flat against the summit. Now, what he is saying, when we left the summit, we saw that the flag was lying flat on the summit. Okay, I was very thirsty. I took out a water tumbler for a drink, but found the water in the metal container had frozen. So I couldn't quench my thirst. Quench means to satisfy, basically, to satisfy the thirst. I ate some biscuits and offered some to Hilary. So what he's saying, that as we reached on the top, I was very thirsty, and I took out my tumbler, like basically the water bottle he's talking about. So I took out the water tumbler and to drink the water, but as I saw that the water got frozen completely because it was too chilled over there. So I couldn't quench my thirst, basically. So instead I ate some biscuits, and I also offered that to Hilary. I was wearing a red scarf which my great friend Lambert, leader of the 1952 Swiss expedition, had given me last year. It was just a year ago, on May 28th, when we were standing at 28,215 feet, that he gave me the scarf. So what he's saying, while when I reached the top, I was wearing the red scarf, which was given by one of my great friend Lambert. And the Lambert was the leader in the year of 1952 when we were doing the Swiss expedition. So he was the leader of that, and he had given me that in the last year itself. And it's just about a year. We were on the top of we were standing on the 28,215 feet above, and that was on the 28th May. And that time when we were as I stood at the top, I remembered him and felt that he was with me. I felt absolutely fit and absolutely fit at the summit. My mind was absolutely clear. I did not feel tired. I felt exhilarated. It was a very clear sensation. So what he's saying, I've been wearing it all the way, like since from the Darjeeling when we started. I was wearing it from that time only, and as I was standing on the top till that time, it was there with me, and I felt like with that scarf, I had a feeling that he is there around me, or he is there with me. That's what I felt. And what he's saying, I felt completely fit, absolutely fit, when I reached on top, and my mind was absolutely clear, and I was not even feeling tired. Instead I was feeling exhilarated. Exhilarated means like very happy or excited. It was very clear sensation, means whatever the emotions, the feelings that I've been going through, it was very clear. Nothing was confusing, or that I couldn't think of something. Below, all the hills and the mountains looked like gods and goddesses to me. The plains below looked like many broken pieces of the map. So, what he's saying, as we were looking below, so all the hills and everything, mountains, it looked like the gods and goddesses to him. And what he's saying, all the plains, all the plain areas were like looking like the broken pieces of the map, as we have seen the maps. So it was looking like that to him when he was standing on the top and looking below. 2 or 3 people could stand there on the roof of the world if you cut ice 20 or 30 feet below the top. Now what below the top, there was enough flat square for 2 people to sleep. And then what he's saying, if we go below 30 feet, 20 or 30 feet below, if we go from the top, then there are enough flat square space for 2 to 3 people, for 2 people to sleep. You could pitch one tent there. The summit is flat on one side and steep on the other. So what he is saying, you can even pitch one tent over there. You can put that one tent over there, because the summit at the one side is flat, and steep on the other side. Steep means the sloping one. There is snow on the northern side, rocks on the south. And what he's saying, on the northern side there is snow, and on the south side it's rock. East and snowy rocks on the west. And what he's saying, the snowy rocks means there are rocks also, but with the snow. So snowy rocks on the west. We stayed on the top a little more than 15 minutes. We were lucky that there was no gale. Gale means a very strong wind. So what he's saying, that we stayed on the top somewhat around, more than 15 minutes. We stayed on the top, the summit of Mount Everest. And what he's saying, that we were very lucky that there was no gale at that time, means there was no heavy wind. Obviously, if there would have been any heavy wind, they wouldn't be able to stay for a long period, or it would have swept us off. My next thought was how to get down safely. Now, what was the concern? How to get down safely. On the descent from the summit, I was walking behind Hilary. I was following him and holding the rope tightly, and my determination was to make sure he descended safely. I must say that the climb down was more difficult and dangerous than the climbing up. So now what he's saying, that while moving down, while going down, we were Edmund Hillary was basically ahead, was leading, and I was following him. So while holding the rope tightly, I had to make sure that he move safely, so that I'll also be safe, and then both of us will be safe. And I must say that what he's saying, that moving down is more dangerous as compared to moving up. So that's what he realized, because if you slip once, you will directly you will slip, and you will directly stop at the end part of it, wherever it leads you. So what he's saying, there was a glacier basically, and the Kangshung glacier. So if you slip, you will go and stop there in the glacier, and obviously if you go into the glacier once, then there will be no traces of you left. And that's what he is talking here. More caution needed. So now there was more caution needed, more attention, and that's what he's talking here. So of course it took less time climbing down, but you needed more hoshyar. That means caution basically. When I reached Camp 9, my first thought was, thank God we have been spared on the accident, and if up to now there have been no accidents, I hope there will be none in future. Now what he's saying, while they were climbing down, what he's saying, obviously we needed to take more caution while moving down, because it's more risky and dangerous. So when they reached the Camp 9, what was the first thought that came in his mind was, thank God that we haven't met with any of the accident. And what he thought, if we haven't met any accident till now, so I hope even further we won't meet with any of the accident. And then I had prayed to God, and this is what the result of praying to God, that He saved me. At Camp 9, Hilary and I were in no mood for any talking. We just attended to our own things. So what he's saying, when they reached the Camp 9 while moving down, or while climbing down, so when they reached the Camp 9, they were not in a mood of talking to anyone. They were just attending their own things. We stayed there about half an hour. We boiled some snow to make lemon water and drank it. So what he's saying, we stayed there in the Camp 9 for half an hour, and then they boiled some of the snow so that they can make the lemon water out of it, and they drank it. When we left, we took only our sleeping bags and left everything else behind in the tent. So what he's saying, while moving down, they only took the sleeping bags with them, and everything else they left behind. From Camp 9 to Camp 8, where we spent the night, was an easier job. So what he's saying, from Camp 9 to Camp 8, when we came, or where we were sleeping, so it was a bit easy one. Just above Camp 8, where the other could see us. And if he was talking about just above the Camp 8, there's a space where everyone else can see us. If we stand there, or if we are there just above the Camp 8, everyone can see us. And then I raised my arm with my thumbs up. CWF Noise and WG Low saw us, and their faces flushed with joy. So basically, there were two people, Noise and Low. So basically, when they saw us, when we were above the just above the camp 8, so they saw us, and their faces flushed with joy. To tell them of our success as we got nearer to the camp 8, and like this we were able to tell them the whole story of our success and everything. As we came closer to the camp 8, Lo came to meet us and came up about 300 feet with tea and coffee. So the Lo who came to meet them, he came about 300 feet with, and he came with tea and coffee. Obviously the kind of a weather it was, like, it must be very chilled. So obviously tea and coffee is all you need, right? So that's what he came with. Another 50 feet down we met Noise, and then while moving down again, so another 50 feet down we met with Noise, and who brought us more tea. This tea smelled kerosene. And now what he's saying, Noise also brought some tea for us, and this tea is smelling like kerosene. Apparently, it got into the welcome cup. Uh, no, apparently it had been made in a hurry, and somehow some kerosene got into the welcome cup. So what he's saying, basically he made the tea in a hurry. So somehow some of the part of the kerosene got into the welcome cup. But I thought since the gentleman had taken so much trouble to bring it, I was going to enjoy it, whether this whatever the smell. So what he's saying that. As we knew that there is a smell of kerosene, but we are going to enjoy it because the gentleman had taken a lot of effort and trouble to offer this tea to us, and obviously we would love to have it. We didn't even care, is it smelling like kerosene or what. So that's what the whole chapter is all about. I hope you must have understood what I have explained. And now in the upcoming lecture we will be discussing about the brainstorming activities. Thank you everyone.